All right, greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. How are you all? Welcome. All right. Well, I can't really leave this alone because it is 9/11. We've had plenty of conversations about this. Lots and lots of conversations. Lots of angry or anger-inducing conversations. It's whatever. But actually, I thought today, first of all, I'm going to say that I'm live on YouTube, Rockfin, and Callin. And thank you, Gene. Hello to you. I'm doing okay. I'm live on all those platforms, but the main meat of this discussion I'm going to do on Rockfin. So I'm going to cover a little something about climate change in the beginning here. We'll do that on YouTube, and then we'll jump off and do the rest of the show on Rockfin. But what I wanted to do is actually just talk to people about 9/11 a little bit. And so Callin is a really great app and a great way to do that. So if you want to call into the show, I kind of want to leave it a little open-ended. And maybe we'll go a little bit longer. I don't know. Maybe a couple minutes longer today. Because it's an important subject in my mind, and I think it's important to other people. Anyway, so we'll do that in a couple minutes. And please, if you are of the mind, if you would really like to call in and whatever side of the fence you're on, I don't really care. I know we've had heated discussions in the past about this, but I just I want to hear people's reasonings for how they think and how they feel, and even if I don't agree with you, that's all good. We don't have to agree. We don't have to agree. That's called tolerance. It's called diversity of thought. Okay. Anyways. Let's talk about this first. I like to hold on before we do that. I like to remind people that diversity is the most important type of diversity is diversity of opinion. And I like a diversity of peoples and sexuality and whatever it is you're into, or whoever you are, that diversity is also very, very important. But diversity of thought, super important, right? That's the underlying factor in the whole free speech thing. Is diversity of thought, is diversity of opinion, and valuing the diversity in that opinion. And we've come to this place where we think diversity means, what you have between your legs or what color your skin is. Somewhat, but again, people of all races and creeds and sexes can have widely diverse opinions, and that's important to remember that. All right. Oh, I didn't want that first. I wanted this first. Okay, so anyways, and along that line, Fantomas suggested that maybe I have dissenting opinions on climate change in my show. Maybe. I'm with it. I'm down to have the discussion. But I like to point out that other opinions on climate change, sometimes can have some compelling arguments, sometimes not. But let's listen to, this thing again.
Many times throughout history, our baseline is now the lowest that carbon dioxide has been in 600 million years. As far as temperature change, the IPCC's first report of 1992 showed that the medieval warm period was warmer than the present. Well, this didn't fit the narrative. So by the time the 1996 report came out, it was a completely contrived graph called the hockey stick. So what they did was they got rid of the medieval warm period and the Little Ice Age, and so instead of the graph doing this, they flattened it out, and then they added instrumental record on the end that looks like it's going way up. The point is that the people that are calling them out on it are not getting the media coverage. You know, because look, at this point there's billions of dollars going into the whole climate change narrative. The climate right now.
You know, this is he's presenting a couple of different things and then ending up at a place where it's like, well, it's billion, there's big business behind the climate change narrative. What he kind of ends on a dud, because actually there's more money in fossil fuels. Because everything on the planet runs on fossil fuels. So there's way more weight, influence, money, behind fossil fuels. Is there big money behind newer energy, or maybe doing things under the guise of the threat of climate change? Sure. I can't deny that. But it's this idea that, there's billions of dollars behind this, so they're not going to allow any dissenting opinion. Actually, that's not true. Again, this is a different subject than other subjects, than say the COVID subject. This has way different parameters, so you can't say this is exactly like this. You can't do that. This is a clip from, apparently he was on Joe Rogan show. Joe Rogan believes that climate change is happening. He knows it's a thing. It's, that there's science and physics and whatnot behind it. But Joe Rogan is open to dissenting opinions, right? So here's this guy saying, well, they won't allow other people to say this. Well, look at this. Hold on one second. I know on well, we showed the clip from Brian Stelter, the guy who invented the climate, or says he started the Weather Channel. Well, that was mainstream media, and that was probably organized. Here's something from RT. I know RT is not necessarily mainstream media, but this is Piers Corbyn, who is Jeremy Corbyn's brother, who is an astrophysicist and says that climate change is bunk. Hold on one second.
The smog-filled cities and poor harvest are being seen by some environmentalists as signs of climate change. Let's now cross live to London to discuss this with Piers Corbyn. He's an astrophysicist and also founder of Weather Action. Good to have you. Thanks very much indeed for joining us live there in London. So what we're seeing here is a drastic change in climate, aren't we?
Well, climate has always been changing, but this has nothing to do with man. In fact, we predicted that there would be extreme heat in East Europe and Russia this summer. And it's caused by a certain circulation pattern. CO2 does not cause circulation patterns. What causes those is a combination of solar activity and the state of the phases of the moon.
Hang on, Piers, wait, excuse me, just a minute. You say this isn't caused by man.
Okay, so hold on. I want to interrupt this. People are posting this saying, I don't know what exact day this happened. This clip is from. This was posted on September 9th, but who knows? This probably could have happened years ago or last year or... No, listen. The people that are like, oh, this didn't go how they planned it. They know who this guy is. They know the things that he says. This guy is famous for saying these things. They didn't go, cut to London, and we have no idea what this man is about to say. Whoa, wait a minute. You're telling me that it's not climate change? Just like Brian Stelter and the guy, whoever the guy was. The guy from the Weather Channel. Like, people are acting like they brought him on to, we're getting this really, knowledgeable insight into climate change from this person. And whoa, he shocked and surprised me. Like, anyways, it's like, I am aghast. Sometimes, it proves, it goes to prove or show you that there's confirmation bias on every side of the political spectrum. And if something fits somebody's narrative, they will jump through mental hoops to try to go, yeah, totally. Like, so first of all, the idea that they didn't know this guy was going to say the things he was going to say is absolutely ludicrous. So people are like, oh, it didn't go how it was planned. They planned it. They know who this person is. They weren't like, wow, there's a lot of like crazy weather going on and we need some really solid insight on the climate change and what's happening. Let's go to this guy who we know is a climate denier. They know who he is. This went exactly as they planned it. So, I mean, come on, people. Are you 3? Are you 3 years old? Oh, he disappeared, reappeared. Whoa. Maybe that's 2. I don't know. Anyways, they know exactly what this guy is going to say. Anyways, there's way more money to lead back to the point of, to go all the way around. There's way more money in climate. There's a lot of money backing this climate denialism. And there has been for decades, for a very long time. There's been a lot of money backing the climate denialism agenda. Just like, smoking, the tobacco company hired doctors to say, no, smoking is totally fine for you. Right? Way back then, I'm sure maybe some people tried to do this, but way back then, right? Was there anybody saying that, the anti-smoking agenda? There's these people trying to, get rid of, I'm sure there were plenty of those people, right? There's people out there trying to tell you smoking is bad for you. This is big business trying to tell you. Is it? Was it? I don't know. And now they just tax the heck out of smoke. Yeah, they'll tell you that it's killing you, but you can still buy all the cigarettes you want. They're just going to tax, they're going to charge you $8 or $10 a pack for them now. But you can smoke all day long, because people are just going to make money. People are just going to tax off the back of all of that. So people are still making money off of growing tobacco, selling tobacco, smoke, all that. Anyways, whatever. So this is ridiculous. It's a stupid point. Sorry. It's just a dumb point. It's a dumb point. Like, oh, they didn't expect this. The Weather Channel guy on CNN. Oh, he totally threw him a curveball because he thought he was good. No, they know who he is. God, get it together, people. I'm going to take a call real quick. Hello, who is this?
Hey.
Hey.
This is E. And you're called Black?
I am called Black. I guess.
All right.
You can call me Black.
So
Black
first
Bear.
of all,
yeah,
9/11. So it's my wife's birthday today, which is unrelated to the events of
yeah. Hold on one second,
2001.
though. E. Can you hold on one moment?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would like to have a conversation with you about 9/11, but can we wait for a few minutes? Do you mind?
Oh yeah. Well, I was gonna tackle. I was going to tackle what you were talking about.
Okay, please. Yeah.
So
go ahead.
So you're right about the climate change denial. There's actually plenty of documentaries out there, especially this late in the game, about how it's been hidden and
yes,
covered up. So I like your analogy or attribution to the smoking problem, like the tobacco issue. It's the same.
Yeah.
It is really the same. Like, you use marketing to convince the people, and then if marketing isn't working to convince the people, then you use disinformation through marketing to steer the people.
Right.
Like, you may not be able to convince them, but you might be able to steer them. So I agree completely with what you're saying. Like, marketing is actually one of the biggest influencers in the world. There's a reason that marketing people get paid what they get paid, you know?
Right.
There's a reason that ads play across the media,
Yeah.
across your experience of life at this point, to be honest. Like you're driving down the road, you're
bombarded.
being influenced by marketing.
Right.
So yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think one of the ironies, if you will, or maybe like I hate to use the word solution, but like a possible solution to the problem is to use counter marketing. So I feel like scientists, the people who are on the right side of the equation, have always been behind the ball because they didn't appreciate marketing. Because you can actually change public opinion through marketing, and the budgets have always been different. So I think the first time I ever heard about climate change was like, to be completely honest, was like Al Gore,
Yeah.
and his documentary, and I heard all the rhetoric against it, and I definitely was polarized. Like I didn't necessarily have an opinion. And then I went to talks, or I went to lectures that were scientists talking about this, and I was like, wow, like my opinion has changed just based on this conversation, but this isn't what's being presented to the public.
Right.
This is something that 50 people, like, sitting at a side room,
Yeah.
watching a PowerPoint,
Right.
got exposed to, and I would ask questions. I was involved, and other people asked questions as well that were like quite intelligent, because everybody there was intelligent. They were all participants in this like search for knowledge about what's going on. And I, at one point blank asked, is this something that can be reversed? Is this something that like where are we in this process? And they're like, we're at, like, the answer I got was like, we're already past the point of no return.
Yeah. Right.
And that was 10 years ago, roughly.
Mm-hmm.
So now here we are, 10 years later, not getting any better, honestly. Like we're maybe in some regards we're trying,
right?
But like, I'm like, okay, maybe they were a little ahead of the curve. Maybe they were screaming Armageddon a little too soon, because I am still alive 10 years later and Florida's not underwater.
Are we all?
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
However, I still don't necessarily think they were wrong. I just think that their predictions were maybe purposefully, or not, maybe they were just wrong, but maybe they were purposefully predicting the worst case scenario.
Right.
Yeah. But we still haven't done anything. I mean, we have made some changes, but we haven't actually changed the course. We haven't fixed the direction we're going in. We're still going positive, not negative.
Right.
So talk to me. Like, what do you think about
that? I think what I think about it might sound a little convoluted, but I see. It's interesting what you're saying, though, is that you have people. So the real conspiracy about climate change in my mind is that it's not that it's a hoax; it's that it's way worse than they're letting on. Like the powers that be understand that we're screwed. The military understands we're screwed. Everybody in power understands like there's no way out of this. And they're going to use, if they're going to do anything about climate change at all, it's going to be like all the wrong things, right? Mostly, from what I can gather. But still, so you're having this pitched battle between people who understand it's really bad and we need to do something, or we're facing the end of the road soon, and then people who are like, there is absolutely nothing to be worried about. This is all just a bunch of things that people made up, right? So I don't know which side is going to, steer our future or not. I'm not really sure. There's a lot of
Okay, so
confusion in between those two.
let
In
me put
between
like
those
a
two
quick.
polar opposites, there's a lot of confusion. But just to get to what you asked me, I think we're in a very bad way. I don't think that we're gonna, as evidenced by history, I don't think we're gonna organize our way out of this because there's even more confusion now after around climate change. There's even more disinformation around it now. So I don't know that we're gonna figure out a way out. But my ultimate, bottom line is that like never say never. You absolutely don't know what don't know what the future brings. So making predictions is probably a bad idea. There's a negative feedback going on
Sir.
with the Arctic right now. So the global warming is there's some weird negative feedback where the world is absolutely getting warmer, but the Arctic there's been a little slowdown in the melting of the ice in the Arctic, and that's due to a particular negative feedback due to global warming, right? So it's not going to last forever. But we have a little bit of there's a little slowdown. We have a little plateau. We have a little extra time, maybe more time than we thought because of this, something we didn't account for in the system.
Well, a joke
Right?
I
And so we
started
just don't
making.
know. We just don't know.
A joke I started making 10 years ago is that Al Gore got it wrong because by calling it global warming, which I'm not saying that Al Gore came up with that. I'm just saying like that was like his platform, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was wrong because global cooling is scarier because the truth is like nobody wants to freeze to death.
Right.
Like people, especially in the US, people deal with heat. They don't see heat as the problem. It's a little bit different right now with droughts starting to surface, but like global cooling, like you say, like an ice age is coming, and that will perk people's ears. You know what I mean? That makes you feel different than
You're right.
the climate's going to get a couple of degrees hotter. Like we're all like, well, yeah, summer's hot, big deal. Like, I mean, especially in the South, like the dirty South, like, no, man, like we don't care. Like we deal with hot summers.
And there
But
was
you tell me there's an
right.
ice age coming and I'm going to have to deal with ice on my roads year round. It's a bit of a different feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. And actually there was a lot of those conflicting messages, back in the day, right? Like during the 70s. This is something that like climate deniers point to all the time, like, oh, they were predicting an ice age and then they were predicting global warming. Which one is it? Did they, back then they had a lot less information. There was information that global warming was happening, but there was actually a debate among scientists, right? There was some scientists were like, I don't know if we're going to do global warming or not. And there was a debate. There was a diversity of thought on the subject.
50 years ago.
Right. 50 years ago, there was a debate. There's not really a debate anymore, right? A lot, I don't know anybody who actually looks at the data and understands the data and actually takes the data seriously. There's no climate scientists out there that are like, it's not happening. That's just not. I'm sorry.
Right, point,
there are people that call themselves, this guy,
yeah.
Piers Corbin, is a astrophysicist, or there's other people that I'm a doctor and I have a degree and I say that climate change isn't happening. Yeah, but you're not a climate scientist. You're just some dude
And how much did you
that
get
went
paid
to college,
say
right. It's like, who cares? All right, let's get, but there's no climate.
How
there's
many
no,
votes do you have?
right. And there's no major studies coming out. There's no climate scientists coming out like saying this is all wrong. There's none of that. So it isn't, you can't say things like settled science, but there's enough of a consensus that it's, there's nobody out there like, blowing the whole thing open. It's just not happening, anyways, I got to let you go, E, because I've got a lot more to cover today, and we will go along.
Yeah, it was
you.
a pleasure, man. Bump me down and I'll come back up later.
All right. Thanks. We probably will go a little bit longer today, guys, because we're taking calls. Thomas, how are you? Hello, Thomas.
Doing good. Sorry. I was having some issues with the mute button.
That's okay.
No, I think though there is a lot of focus that's put on carbon emissions and everything like that, and there's a lot of focus put on climate change regarding like the net increase of the ocean temperatures and whatnot. But the problem is, at least in my opinion, I think that overshadows some of the things that are going to kill us first, like collapse in our water cycles, or the death of the Atlantic Ocean. The 90% phytoplankton die off. That is
Right.
going to pretty much guarantee the Atlantic's dead in the next 10 years. Or mass deforestation, a degradation of land, the
Oh,
quality of land. I mean, so we're going to be dealing with
absolutely.
potentially mass flood events that cause complete wiping of topsoil. We could be looking at collapse of entire biomes. I mean, the insect population in the U.S. is crashing.
It's crashing everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's gotten a little bit better in Europe since they've banned pesticides.
Has it? Okay.
But yeah. Some of the populations are recovering in Europe since they've put regulations in place. But that still doesn't change the U.S. Obviously, because we're still we still have the bug trucks going around and spraying pesticides just into the open air, in residential neighborhoods just for the shits and giggles.
Right.
So to me, it's like yeah. So. But I think it's the land degradation and the water cycle degradation. I mean, basically, we're looking at biome collapse, and we talk so much about the carbon emissions, but we also need to be talking about the carbon sinking. And see, the problem is we're because of deforestation, because we're tearing down the Amazon and everything like that. We're not just putting out more carbon dioxide and methane and other things into the atmosphere, but we're also eliminating the way that it gets sequestered naturally. So I think a lot of the discussion has been sucked into the cutting carbon emissions, and this is everybody's just ignoring like the 6 or 7 other things that are probably going to kill us first.
Well, yeah,
and that frustrates me, at least in my opinion. So
yeah. Oh, totally. Well, I mean. And here's the other side of the coin with like people that say that they're doing this climate change agenda thing. It's just like, oh, well, the conversation around climate change is so elementary. It is so, you know what I mean? Like just like one dimensional, like, oh, we got to cut these emissions so that we don't get the hot temperatures. It's like, well, man, there are so many other things going on. And we're not even. You can't even get deep into the conversation.
Are like,
yeah.
Well, and politicians are like, oh, well, we switched the fuel supply to be more, to not produce as much carbon. Okay, great. We're still dying. We're still going to die in 10 years from 5 other things. It's like the politicians get an easy out. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we've increased. Let's talk about it. Our fossil fuels are cleaner burning, air quotes, because they've increased the ethanol content in it, air quotes. But what has that done? That's actually caused a significant amount of farmland in the United States to be devoted to corn production. And the problem is that corn production it's actually degrading the land, because it's your typical, Monsanto, combo of GMO corn and Monsanto pesticides and fertilizers.
Plus all the fossil fuel it takes to actually grow that corn. It's actually worse for the climate. Ethanol is worse for the climate than actual just getting some oil out of the ground.
Yeah. And so you have the, and the soil, though, because they're intensively growing the same crop over and over and over again. It's actually, it's making the soil to be such that the only thing that could ever grow on it is corn. It's going to take lots of effort to recondition that soil back to being something that could be productive for other types of crops, which is creating a potential, in my opinion, it's going to create a corn bubble. but later down the line. But the point being is and now there's talk now, because in order to be more environmentally friendly and to fight climate change, we need to increase the ethanol production to 20%. They've been
Right.
talking about that. And
Right.
this is just, so I'm just like, oh boy,
Yeah.
this is, it's, as I said, the politicians are, they've latched on, at least. they're not given, they don't really want to solve the problem, but to make it look like they're solving the problem, they're actually making things worse.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
It's true. Hey, Thomas, I'm going to let you go because I got to move on to some other subjects, but thank you for the call. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I mean, we're just so far away from an actual, any kind of policies that it can actually do. I'm not saying that all the policies are bad, but as far as an understanding by the masses of what it is that needs to be done, we're way, way, way off. Anyways, I did say let's talk in my video title, so and that's all good. Taking a lot of calls today. That's all good. That's what I wanted to do. But I just wanted to point out this funny thing. I was going to go a little farther into what Randall was saying about. Anyways, I'm not going to do that. It's just that it always goes back to the discussion of, well, they are making all money from this climate change thing, and they're gonna, all right, sure. But it still isn't the dominant. Renewable energy isn't the dominant energy source. And not even close. It's like 2, 3, 4% of the energy mix or something. Maybe in some places it's as high as 6 or 8%. Right. So it's not the dominant. There might be money in it, but it's not the dominant energy source. The dominant energy source is fossil fuels, to the tune of 90+% of the global. So you tell me where all the advertising dollars and all the interest and all the money is. It's there. That's where it is. And they don't want to stop. They don't want that to stop. They cannot stop. They can't stop without the awareness first of people, the mass of people understanding what's going on the planet. They can't stop without everybody understanding, oh, this is where we're going. Maybe we should do something different. Okay, well, let's talk about what the different thing is. And then we can go on from there. All right, so in the interest of time, I want to jump off of YouTube. YouTubers, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. We're going to talk about 9/11, but we're going to do it on Rockfin and Colin. So I'm going to jump off of YouTube and I'm switch gears on people. Thank you, YouTubers. I'll see you again tomorrow at noon Pacific. Peace. Right.